In this video, we're going to do an example of taking the derivative of an inverse function. Okay, the question is to find f inverse prime of 4, okay, the derivative of f inverse at x equals 4. Now, if f of x is x to the fifth plus x cubed plus 2. Now, I've drawn the graph of f of x right here, and it is a one-to-one function. The way to really check that it's one-to-one is one way to check it is to take the derivative of this, and you'll notice that the derivative is always positive no matter what x is, and so therefore f is an increasing function, and if it's increasing it definitely will be one-to-one. Okay, so f is a one-to-one function, so it does have an inverse, and I've drawn the graph of f inverse down here. Okay, in blue. It's the reflection of the graph of f across this line y equals x. Now, the question is really, what is the slope of f inverse of x at x equals 4? Right? If we're over here at, say, 4, okay, the question is, what is the slope of the tangent line right here? Okay, what is f inverse prime of 4? Okay, now, one way to do this is to try to find a formula for f inverse of x, and then take the derivative of that, and then plug in 4. Okay, so one way to find f inverse prime of 4 is to find a formula for f inverse of x, then take the derivative, and then plug in x equals 4. So that's what we'll try to do. Okay, that'll be our first attempt here to find f inverse prime of 4 for this function. So remember, to find a formula for f inverse of x, it really involves 4 steps. The first step is to take your original function and use y instead of f of x. So y equals x to the fifth plus x cubed plus 2. The second step is to interchange x and y. Okay, everywhere you see a y, put an x. Everywhere you see an x, put a y. And the third step, if any of the steps are going to be hard, it's going to be the third step. We have to solve for y. Okay, so we want to get y all by itself. Now let's see, how can we do this here? We could, could take a fifth root of both sides, or maybe subtract 2 and then factor out a y cubed, or I don't know. What do we do? How do we get y all by itself? Well, you can try a whole bunch of methods, but there's just no way to do it. Okay, there's no way to just get y equals something that only involves x's. Okay, so we're stuck. Okay, we can't solve this for y, so what do? Well, oh crap. Okay, what do? We can't solve this for y. So what we do is something else. Okay, this method is not going to work because we can't find a formula for f inverse of x. So the other way to do this is to use our formula that we derived in the previous section. Okay, the previous section we derived this formula for the derivative of f inverse of x is 1 over f prime of f inverse of x. So if we want to find f inverse prime of 4, we can just plug in 4 into this formula. And the formula would then say f inverse prime of 4 is equal to 1 over f prime of f inverse of 4. Okay, so what is 1 over f prime of f inverse of 4? Well, we can take f prime here, but first of all, what's f inverse of 4? Now, this may or may not be obvious to you. The question is, what value of x can you plug in here that will give you an output of 4? Okay, this may or may not be obvious to you, but notice that f of 1, what's f of 1? It's equal to 4. Okay, so it's kind of clear to me that when we plug in 1, we get output of 4. So f of 1 is 4. What that means is that f inverse of 4 will be 1. So even though I can't really find a formula for f inverse of x for a general value of x, I do know what f inverse of 4 is. It's 1. And how do I know that? Because I know that when you plug in 1, you get an output of 4. Okay, so what we have here is that this is equal to 1 over f prime of f inverse of 4, but what is f inverse of 4? It's 1. Okay, so it's 1 over f prime of 1. Now what is f prime of 1? Well, f prime of x, okay, this is kind of scratch work over here. Okay, scratch work. F prime of x is 5x to the fourth plus 3x squared. Okay, I took the derivative of this. So what's f prime of 1? it's 5 times 1 to the 4th plus 3 times 1 squared, and that's really just 5 plus 3, which is 8. Okay, so the answer here is 1/8. Okay, f inverse prime of 4 is 1/8. Now what does that mean geometrically? Well, let's go back to our original graph. What our question was, what was the slope here? Okay, what was the slope here? Okay, well the slope is f inverse prime of 4, and it turned out we found that that was 1/8, but notice we could find this point over here. So this, by the way, is the point 4 comma 1. Its reflected point over here is 1 comma 4, and the slope of the tangent line over here turns out that it is 8, right? We found what that was. That the slope here is f prime of 1, okay, which is 8. Okay, this slope was 1/8. Okay, so the slope of this red line and this red line, these slopes are reciprocals of each other. This is a slope of 8, this has a slope of 1/8. Okay, now many times this way of doing it here, this first attempt way, will work. Okay, you can find a formula for f inverse of x in a lot of cases. Okay, so now you sometimes have a choice whether you want to use this first method or whether you want to use this method. Okay, but sometimes you can't find a formula for f inverse of x like we had here, and we have to use this method that we did down here.